now, I mean, stick the nose in or bounce off the side of the board, you just have these spectacular wipeouts. And it was getting to the point at Worlds where it was like, am I going to do this again? Do I really want to go to the weather market again? Adam one time actually cracked the nose of his board open with his I think his harness or his side, while his both feet were still in the foot straps because he just got pulled forward so hard that he just whacked the nose of the board during one of those. So, and I mean, that's on a big mountain of a wave you're doing it. So it's always fun.
Yeah. What about the changing of boards for jumping and that kind of thing? It's a different discipline. I'm sure the boards are very different.
Yeah, it's totally different. It's more like riding a wakeboard or a snowboard to go do freestyle. This is definitely race specific, hence the volume and the fins and everything. It's designed to go upwind and downwind as fast as it can. Channel.
Can you talk a little bit about the metric that kite racing lends to the sport versus sort of the subjective way that kiteboarding used to be perceived through judges? And, I mean, because I think that's why the sport is growing so rapidly, is because Bill can say he beat Mark, and kiteboarding was not like that previously.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, we go to these freestyle contests, and there's often a freestyle discipline while we're at a race. And we watch, and it's all judged by people who have been around the sport forever and know every rider personally. And you just kind of wonder. I mean, I've never been one that's like judge sports. I like crossing the line before somebody else and knowing I beat them, or the other way around. There's no disputing it. So it's definitely making it more of an even playing field, I think, for everybody. And it's more age inclusive, basically. Anybody can do it, kids to John. Yeah.
Chip, could you explain something about the foiling boards? What happened with them and what their future is?
Yeah. Well, the foil board, there was a set of pictures up there before, and the foil board is a platform, and then it has a large, close to 36-inch deep shaft on it that has two foils at the bottom, and that lifts you up out of the water, which creates tremendous efficiency passing through the water, because that foil is always trying to lift up and out of the water, so you're gliding on basically a flow of water going over those foils. And you think about it, those foils want to lift. It's trying to shoot you out of the water, and you're keeping pressure on that front foot so it doesn't fly out of the water. But then when you tilt the board like this, that foil is still trying to lift. So upwind, those foil boards work tremendously. So this was during the transition of more conventional boards. Before we got to boards like this, the foil board had this tremendous ability to go upwind, so it could crush everyone. But the problem is it has a real drawback in going downwind, because the way that foil board glides, it doesn't allow you to create resistance against your kite and thus apparent wind. So there's still, the foil technology, I think, is going to blend with something like this. I don't know if it's going to be in the traditional sense of the foil board as it is designed now, but I think it's possibly going to blend with something like this. We're already foiling on those fins, but there's more to come in this tweaking development, as Johnny puts it. And that's what makes this so interesting, is that this is such a moving target. I mean, Johnny's going to go to Germany, he's going to win, but as he's winning, this technology is changing. You know, we're back here, and he's thinking about things of what we can do next, and the fin and board designers are getting to the next level. So I think that's really what keeps it, interesting. And we're down to the point now where in any of these races that these guys are doing, we're doing, you bobble one tack and you're out the back. I mean, the tolerances for, a piece of equipment not being right, or a piece of your personal performance not being up to standard, it's becoming a really high class of competition, and there is no tolerance for mistakes or bad equipment. So
you spend a lot of time looking at the kite. What if somebody's in the water in front of you and you've got these knife blades coming right at you?
Typically, the looking at the kite part is just really during the start. Because once you're going, you pretty much have a feel of where the kite is. It turns into a second nature thing. So you're going along on starboard, and I know how high the kite is just from the feel of how it's pulling against my harness and where my hands are, just naturally. So you're basically looking at the waves just like you're driving a sailboat, and you have that same dilemma of how much can I get my head out of the boat and look at the course without slowing down that you have on any other boat, which I think the difference in speed here might be even greater because you're going so fast that 10% is a few knots instead of half a knot. But you're not really in danger of that, I don't think. Just
Not too
running
many
speed.
people end up in the water.
Yeah.
Well, the rule is as if you're capsized. If the rule is as if you're capsized or not on your board, then all the other riders have to avoid you. So if somebody's in the water ahead of you, you're not just gonna run them over, you're gonna do everything you can to avoid them. And you're looking forward while you're racing, you're not, looking up. As you can see in the picture, he's, looking ahead. So far that hasn't been.
But I did end up at a weather mark at one point where I fell in the water and there's just a bunch of people going by me and you're thinking, this is a little bit scary. So you're going fast. If they hit me, it's gonna hurt. Yeah, Chris.
Johnny, a couple things. It strikes me in the races we've seen here, the start's always close, but by the time the windward mark is being approached, you've got a lot of space. At the Worlds, did you have a lot of people close at any of these marks, or did you guys spread out right away?
The Worlds was, I think it was closer. I mean, at the Worlds you have a little bit tighter competition within the top 20 are all good riders, solid riders, could be top 10 or top 5. So it was definitely closer. I'd say we had a bit of a speed advantage, the top 3 of us this year. But that doesn't mean we rounded every weather mark in first by any means. There was catch up to be had. So
that may not last. So that goes to the second part of the question, which is the rules, and specifically at the start, where you have everybody, even if they're not fast, they're all claiming a lane. I remember Chip having a heated discussion with another guy a couple of years ago about getting in, claiming a spot by dropping the kite, basically, so that you were unpowered and sitting on the line, waiting for the gun to go off, and then you'd fire off from there, where anybody who was behind you trying to catch some speed or something like that had to avoid somebody who picked up roll and was just sitting there. Now, how did you fix that in the rules?
one rule that's been big in that is you're not actually allowed to stop on the line. You're not. I think the way it's written is you can't lose. You have to have material forward progress or something along those lines. So basically, you can't go stop on the line, go head to wind, meaning fall in the water, and then get going. And that's pretty much because to get going, you do a big power stroke with your kite. So you kite's above your head and you dive it towards the water and back up, and that movement of the kite gets power and you get up on the board. So if everyone were to stop and then do that at one time, you would have a very big tangle. Real mayhem. But it's also, the fleet's getting better at normal sailboat type starts. They're not just everybody reaching in towards the boat, barging, and then heading up. Everyone's starting lower, below the line, coming in close hauled. So you kind of establish your lanes well below you get to the line, and then at go, you're trying to be full speed, close hauled.
So, and that leads to the last question, which is, in some of our fleets, not yours, there's a group of sailors who are playing the rules more than they're playing just flat sailing. Do you see that coming?
I don't think so that much. I think the fleet's pretty good about not pushing that too much. I mean, we've all had to protest somebody. If you get fouled blatantly, if you get taken out of a race, you got to file for redress. And there are more redress hearings in this, because if you get fouled, oftentimes it's not just, oh, I got fouled and had to tack. It's, I got fouled and I swam to the beach.
Yeah.
But so that doesn't work too well. You can't just finish the race. But I think that it's such a fast-moving thing. People don't really want to be in those positions. It's more about sailing clean and cooperating a little bit. Hopefully the fleet has that same mentality, and then you don't get in those situations. Yep.
Just give them the numbers. Your
What?
upwind speed, your downwind speed, your tacking angles, gyro
Upwind
angles.
speed, we're doing 15 to 17 knots. Downwind can be 30 if it's flat water, usually in the 25 range. And tacking angles are getting pretty good. I mean, I was tacking angles were the same as the AC-45. I don't know what they're tacking at. That's, I think, at least a 90-degree total tacking angle. And downwind, the angles just get lower and lower as it gets breezier. So the speeds are pretty much the same all the time downwind, but as it gets windier, you're going more towards head downwind. But it's a very fast-paced game. You always have to be on it. Things happen quickly. One little bobble on a wave with chip's head and you're out the back, because if you stop for 5 seconds and everyone else is going 16 knots of wind, that's a lot of ground you just lost. Yeah?
Do you have fleet limits as far as number of contestants? I mean, obviously you can't get too many people out there, the whole site's flying.
Right now, I think they say that if there's, I think no more than 60 on one line, but I think at Worlds we had more than 60 on one line, so we had 70 plus and it worked. So with minimal tangles, and it was pretty good, pretty impressive actually.
How long was the line?
It was a bit long. But it was so nasty out there that I mentioned how crazy it was. They couldn't even anchor the committee boats, so they had 2 boats holding position on either end of the lines. It was crazy. So they had the line long to also help you out with just staying alive.
Is that typical wind there?
Apparently.
Yeah. What's the starting sequence in minutes, and also when they judge you starting and finishing, is it the nose of the board or the kite?
It's the board, and we just use a normal 5-minute sailing sequence. So it's all standard there. But yeah, the kite, so if it was a downwind finish and you finish your kite across first, that wouldn't count. It's till the board crosses.
Same thing with the start, it's nose of the board.
Mm-hmm. Or body, I think. Body or board, I think all counts. Yeah?
Do they use a gate system on the upland mark, the routing?
Upwind mark? An offset, but not a...
Offset.
There'll be an offset sometimes,
What about
yeah.
what about the leeward mark?
Leeward mark, we haven't really done too many gates yet. The only issue that we have different with the gate is that if you're coming in and you jibe in that between the gate zone, if you had 2 people coming in and jibing, their kites might hit. It could work, I think, with no issue. You just have to be more aware. It just hasn't been in the course yet. Yeah. Well, it should be the normal deal, but oftentimes they start us under the black flag all the time, which is kind of, in my mind, a little bit annoying, because we don't really need that, I don't think. I think you should be able to alleviate yourself, and you should be able to push the line a bit. So black flag meaning you just over early and you're done for that race, no matter what. So that's kind of been typical lately, and I think that's something that we need to push as sailors to change, because you should be able to have an over early and go exonerate yourself and recross the line and keep going.
It's hard to break from the pack after a start because you're pinned. You can't dive your kite and go back around and clear yourself, so it's tough to exonerate yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Did I mention that we are doing 360s now? Did I say that before?
What is a 360?
The 360.
Which
What do you have to do with it?
You have to complete a tack and a jibe, basically, same thing. And that means you stay on your board, and the board goes through the wind, and you establish yourself on the new tack, and then the board spins down through the breeze. But that was, the reason that wasn't originally the rule is because if I go out there on a board that I would normally go do freestyle on, if I do a backflip, is that a 360? So it was kind of unclear in the beginning, but now that we're all on boats, it's more clear. Yeah?
I've heard there's bumper stickers in Hawaii that say that windsurfing has been canceled, kite sailing is on. Do you agree with that? And what
I don't know, John came to pick up about 30 years worth of windsurfing gear from our house yesterday so they can go windsurfing. But I'd say that it's definitely taking over most of the people that say, I want to learn that wind sport that looks really cool, either kiteboarding or windsurfing, are going to probably learn to kiteboard. That's great, it'll grow our sport.
What do the kiters call the windsurfers?
Pole boarders.
What are the pole boarders called?
Hey, you came up with that one.
Yeah. Puppets.
Puppets.
Show us the kite that's on there.
Brilliant. Is there a kite?
Yeah.
Grant wants to show a kite.
Here, I'll show you this. While we're at it, this is what we're riding. So you got a lot of fin on the bottom of the board. It's wide, it's fast. You always ride it flat.
Hold it up.
Wow. You should hold it up with one hand.
That way.
So that's where we are now.
High.
Yeah, it's about 15 pounds total.
Sans fins, it's about 10 pounds.
All right. What's it made out of? It's made like any windsurfer. It's a foam core sandwich and mostly carbon on these ones. Some fiberglass. And it's all, these things are all built by hand. That's the crazy thing, is Mike does everything himself. And so meticulous. It's pretty nuts. And that's why they're so fast. Okay. It's like a gear show.
I guess the thing about the kites that allows us to travel is they're inflatable. It's almost like a spinnaker, where these are the struts that are sort of like the battens, and then the leading edge, and it all inflates from a single point. But they're incredibly light, made out of sailcloth, spinnaker sailcloth. And this one's kind of a medium size, it's an 11 meter.
And those inflated struts are what gives it its structure and shape. And it also allows the kite to float faster than water.
Yeah, and I was telling John yesterday, they have so many pieces. He's picking up all the areas like getting mass and universals and making sure everything fits together. And basically for us, it's just, this is the sail, and once you pump it up, that's everything. So you have a bar with lines on it and this, and you're good to go. So it's incredibly small and light. Take it anywhere. That's the beauty of it. That's basically Kite.
How many boards and kites are you taking like this on a normal trip?
I'm taking one board and 6 kites. One set. You know, it goes in like that. Yep. Yeah, and if you do want to just watch tomorrow, there's going to be a race right here. I'm not going to be here, but these guys will all be racing. You get to see Chip try to fend Erica off. And Erica Brown has a new battle. So,
I'm losing.
yeah, you should come check it out if you haven't seen one already. Or maybe you'll now know what's going on, if I helped at all.
The best thing is the viewing is from the cocktail lounge. So it starts right in front.
Just jump on it.
Don't name those things to me.
You know, when this club reopened after the Christmas fire of 1976, I can't remember the date when we reopened, but this room was new circa 77, 78. No one imagined seeing this against this fireplace. In fact, it was a few years into having our new clubhouse that we even had the conversation about whether or not to let those windsurfers into the St Francis Yacht Club. But we did, and we know now it was a good thing to do. We were the leaders among yacht clubs in doing that. And, you know, Chip Wasson he's not old, but he is the grand man of that whole movement. Since 1984, he joined as a windsurfer. Little knowing that someday he would become also a puppet. Congratulations, thank you for being here. Have a fine Wednesday.
Thank you, John.